AJ, I wanted to cancel, but I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna cancel." Alright, we're live. Oh, there's Kay.
All right, this is wonderful.
Yeah. Hi, Kay.
Hi.
Hi, Kay.
Hi. I have you on my iPad, like on a stack
Oh,
of books. There I
Look at
am.
I like what you did
yeah.
with your A.
I know. It's where it's at. Where's my camera? Am I looking at my camera? Yes. Okay. Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
So
I'm
I'm technologically not on the same level as you guys yet.
in oh, the
Here,
it
I'll lift it
doesn't
there. Now I'm on Kay's level.
okay. And I can't like, I would have to lift my laptop up. I
Oh,
guess
you
it's
still
kinda
have
low.
the upgrade going on still.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I
Oh.
I'm glad that we made arrangements for, like, to do your art today.
Oh. Okay. So I was leaning into what you ladies asked of me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was leaning into getting messages of what we would talk about. So
Mhm.
maybe it ties in. Yeah,
Okay.
let's see how it goes. I would
Whatever
love,
yeah. I was
yeah,
gonna say,
whatever.
whatever you received is divine because
Yeah,
my voice, I need to rest it up.
absolutely. Yeah. So are you still okay with answering questions?
Of course.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, good. Um, I have some questions for you though. Oh, good. All
Okay.
right. So I have a question for both of you. In the highest good of all, I'm going to ask you a very transparent question. What is the last emotion you felt that was the strongest in a relationship? Like, I imagine it may have been with maybe a roommate, uh, someone you're married to, maybe a child, but what was the strongest emotion you felt most recently? And I could tell you my story, but I would rather hear your stories and I can share mine if we have time.
Anger.
Yeah,
Mm.
me too.
Oh, wow.
But it was a growth move because I was able to say to the kids, I am so angry right now.
Hmm.
And and I even said I want to hit you. And I've never hit my kids, but that
Right.
was the thought that came in my mind at that moment. And I was able it's like it was the first time that I visualized, like, these little demons or I don't wanna say demons because there are
Yeah.
thoughts, but they clearly were not my thoughts. I was in a space where I was receiving those. And the kids said, "Well, you don't sound angry, you're not yelling." I'm like, "That's not my goal. You
Right?
need to attend to my words. I'm working very, very hard." And after that interaction, I of course, was very down and out and judgmental on myself, and then I flipped it, and I was so proud that I had those thoughts and it stopped there. It didn't translate into well, I'm not gonna hit my kid, let me say a bunch of mean things to my kid, which I've
Hmm.
been in those moments before. I was able to articulate, "This is how I'm feeling right now," and deliver it in a manner where they're like, "It's incongruous with your mood."
Mhm.
Like a slap in the face with your tongue, those word hits you talked
I
about?
didn't I didn't
Yeah,
do that either.
you
I didn't do
didn't.
that
Yeah.
either. I really was just like, because it was bedtime, right? And so I did end up saying, like, "Go the fuck to sleep." Like, I was like, "Shut up and go to
Right.
sleep,"
Hmm.
which was not my ideal, but the best that I could do in that moment. And
Hmm.
that was, that I was upset that my best wasn't better. That's
Mm.
why I was judging myself, was that my best wasn't better, and then that's why I had to flip it of like, "But look at all the other things I gate kept that didn't come through." And just
That's
to reiterate for everyone,
beautiful.
like, I've never hit my kids, but again, like, the immediacy of that anger trigger is like, we're gonna go all out, and
Hmm.
that's a very intimate, private thing that a lot of people struggle with because they don't wanna talk about it because they're like,
Hmm.
"Oh, if I say something like this, it's gonna trigger a bunch of things." And it's like, "Okay, but
Hmm.
let's acknowledge that this is a thought that comes through our heads and that we're empowered to make that choice or not."
Yeah, I've learned two things about anger, and your share is so beautiful because wasn't it easy to fall into it, and you could have just gone on the track of anger?
Oh my goodness, and I don't wanna cut you off from your anecdotes, I wanna hear them, but that's been my lesson this week as I've been upgrading, and so,
Yeah.
a lot of the thought patterns feel familiar, and then reminding myself, "But that's not me." Like, they're familiar, but they're not my alignment space.
Mhm. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
What were your anecdotes about the anger, the what you've learned?
I learned that Sesame Street Oscar the Grouch was in a garbage can because anger is like a garbage can. You can fall into it and just stay there.
I like
And
that.
I I've also learned that anger is a cue for in this CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy lessons I've learned. Anger is a notice. Like anger isn't bad and anger isn't good, but anger is a notice for you to know that you've been trespassed against. It's a way that your body shares that message with you. And to do exactly what you just did is beautiful because you stopped being that persona and you started being, okay, I am a caring mom. I am a loving mom. And there's something going on here and I'm going to work through it, but I'm not just going to fall in that garbage can or go
Mm.
down the anger tracks. I'm actually going to address, okay, I feel like, and you shared what you felt like, and then you worked through it. So you worked through being that persona and you fell back into love or out of the garbage can of hate and anger.
It's funny that you mentioned Sesame Street. We were at a Sesame Street theme park on Friday. It's really weird that that's the theme park. It's this water park that's existed in San Diego since, like, '97, and it's had 4 different names, and its current iteration is Sesame Street, but, they're just water slides. And so one of our favorite slides that we kept going down was Oscar the Grouch's,
Funny.
and it was so much fun. I mean, my girls were like, "Mom," my 11-year-old was like, "I feel like a kid again." I'm like, "You're 11." And then they were
You
sometimes
are a
embarrassed.
kid. You are a kid.
Mhm.
They were sometimes embarrassed by how, like, silly and giddy I was being, but some of those slides, like, there was one where you could go face first, you're, like, laying on a sled. I'd never been on a face first water slide before.
Oh,
My stomach
Mm.
dropped on that, and I was just like, "Whew," it was a lot of fun.
Was
yeah.
it long? It was a long slide.
Mm-mm, it was very short, it kinda had, like, a in the tunnel loop around, and then it opened up,
Mhm.
and the open up was the stomach drop. That was fun.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it sounds fun.
Does sound fun. Do you have an anger or a, not anger, let's not name it, a strong emotion that you felt, July, that you'd like to share? I love
Um,
that before we start, I love that AJ shared anger right away because for me,
yeah.
that's for most people, that's the biggest shame emotion people can talk about or share. And I'll share mine at the end, but it's also anger.
Okay. Yeah, she went right for it.
Hmm.
I didn't
Yeah,
want
I'm
to. I didn't want to,
so
but,
grateful.
it's okay.
Yeah,
No,
great.
yeah. I'm glad that you did.
Yeah.
Um, I'm having a hard time thinking about it because I'm not really in a relationship with anybody, and it's been a long time.
Hmm.
So to be crisp and clear about it, it's hard to say or go right to like AJ was able to do what it was, but I can tell you that um, that definitely is one of the strongest emotions. But also, I think that, and I don't know, it's probably not just me, right, ladies? But like when I feel the love, it is so strong.
Hmm.
Like, as
Yeah.
a matter of fact, yesterday I was feeling so much love that I started to cry.
I love that feeling.
Don't
Hmm.
you?
And people don't
Hmm.
recognize they have shame around the crying, so
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's it's beautiful that we know that it's just an outpouring.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the anger, though, when the anger happens, it's debilitating, and I have to like really try to realign myself again
Hmm.
so that I can because I've noticed I've noticed that the strongest anger that I've ever felt caused me to have to turn to God because if I didn't, I was going to do something. I was going to act on it. And I didn't want to act on it. So it actually made me turn to God and then go turn to that. Sorry, to that person. To let go of the anger for myself. And, and it, like what you said, Kay, this is one of those times where I definitely felt trespassed against, rather than it being, my own anger just because I didn't have any self-control. But like to get a hold on it, because I knew it could have been out of control, I had to turn to God. And somebody asked me the other day, a friend of mine asked me on TikTok, how do you maintain, how did it go? How do you stay focused? How do you keep your focus? And I said, I empty myself. Isn't that funny? I empty myself and I fill myself with God.
Yeah.
And in those times of anger, that's what has to happen.
Because that's the biggest trigger for me is like, I'm better than this. So it goes from an anger to a shame. Because the anger hits, and then if we identify with it, then it's like, I'm better than this. How did I let myself get here? And that's that pit of despair. That's that trash can.
Yeah.
And so you're just like, this isn't me. Get out, get out, get out. Bring in what I know I'm capable of. And that decision process can take a little while sometimes.
Yeah, the grace you give yourself in that moment. Someone explained grace as those moments where something comes in and helps you, like what July just said, clear the energy, or like you just said, AJ, get out of that trash can. That grace of changing, realigning on those tracks of what you want to stay aligned with, which is love, or understanding, right? In your case, AJ, it was like, okay, understanding in this moment, I feel this way, and I'm going to share how I feel. And your girls said, I didn't know that you were angry. You're not yelling. So their cue is that you're angry when you're yelling. And you're like, no, pay attention to my words. I'm sharing with you. I'm articulating with you what it is. That there's my computer that keeps turning off. So that I think I might turn this off. So that's beautiful. Thank you. In July, I love that you shared that, because AJ, when July shares, or July when AJ shares, do you have synchronous? Oh yeah, I felt that way too. Oh yeah,
Of course.
yeah,
Definitely.
because when AJ shared anger, immediately I went to a conversation I had with my husband before, or a conversation that I had with my kids. My daughter's going to turn 21, the legal age, here in a few days, and when she was 3 and my son was 4, I got angry at them. So that was the moment that came to me was, I was angry. Like, that's before I was not a young mom, but I was angry. Like, I was an angry mom. I had been shown how to be angry. I think I've shared with you ladies before. I've been a door slammer. I've never hit my kids, but I got spanked a lot when I was a little kid. So that was the first thought I thought was anger, and how I brought that anger with me from my childhood, my programming of how to be angry. I knew exactly how to be angry, and it got their attention, but it also caused a lot of damage. And so yesterday, my husband and I also had a conversation where we were a little bit heated, and it was about manifesting. And I found myself being like, I don't like resistance. I want a manifester with me. I don't want somebody who gives me all the logical reasons why this isn't possible. So I found myself getting pissed off. But honestly, the last emotion I felt was intense compassion and love when I did a meditation to clear myself. And I told you ladies about a vision I had earlier this week. I went into an appointment purposefully to have a vision, and it was a 2-hour long appointment. And in that appointment, I sat on this ledge, and on my right side was God. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to tear up just telling you about it. And it was so beautiful. He was so caring and so loving. And he was like this lion. And then last night I went back to, okay, so I was kind of angry today. God, can we talk? Can we clear this up? And kind of like what you shared, AJ, this week, where, okay, was I okay with the way I was in that moment, and have those moments fade away to where there's a tear. Are you okay with the way that you presented yourself with other people in the present moment? And you could say yes. And I couldn't necessarily say that, but in this moment, I sat there with God on this edge, and he laid his head in my lap as a lion, and he was so sad. And I've never experienced a sad God before. He was so sad about the condition of, how did we get here? And I thought, wow, I've always come to you for support, and to sit in this and go, it's okay. Hey, God, it's going to be okay. This is going to be okay. This is how it's supposed to be, right? Isn't that what you normally tell me? See all these lights that are here for you as far as your eyes can see. Like you always tell me, like we're going to make it through this. So I'm surprised I'm telling this, but yeah, that was the strongest emotion that I felt most recently, was compassion and pure love. And how do we get back to that and away from fear and anger, and how do we get back on track? And so it was a beautiful moment. I've never experienced that moment before. Never. In all my years of meditating, I've never gone to purposefully meet with God and have him share that emotion with me. So, and I expected it to be, like he's always, or they're always in a position of support and love and kindness and cleansing. And in this instance, it was completely different. And I'm so grateful I got to experience that, because we're in unity. We're all together in this. And it's not about one person lifting another person up, or one being lifting another being up always. It's about that give and take of, okay, I'm feeling this way, like you shared, AJ, to your girls, and they could do that playback between you and them. Like, okay, so mom's feeling this way, and I can't change how she feels, but I can certainly listen and offer compassion. Or in July's sense, feeling pure love because she's cleansing what she's feeling and filling up with what she desires to feel. I just think emotions are the reason why we're here. I think I've joked with you ladies before that in the spirit world, we didn't have a body, so there was no feedback, right? I mean, we did maybe have feedback, but there was always bliss. And I've asked you before, do you imagine that bliss would get boring? And I've asked myself that a lot, like, oh yeah, bliss, this is so cool. To imagine that you would want to come down into earth and have a resistance experience is, to me, the epitome of being alive and being in the moment, working through those moments. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing. I have a follow-up question for you.
Okay.
That's a beautiful story.
I'm going to clean my glasses because they're
and I'll share why that had me tear up while you were sharing it. It's because you ladies know, and I'm mindful of being open to changing the narrative of how I say this, because how I say this currently is how I currently understand myself. That I very easily see where people could be. And so it hurts when they're not there. It doesn't hurt me personally. It's not like, how dare you not show up better for me? But it's like, I see your potential. I see where you could be, and you're not there. And this disparity is painful for me. And I was sitting there the other day, and it was literally like, but God loves everybody exactly where they are. And who am I to take on this pain? It was this like joking moment of like, who do I think I am?
I felt like that too. I think it comes from creators such as ourselves. I mean, we all are creators, but
Mhm.
When we're creators, to the extent that we are,
Mhm.
we're faced with everybody's potential. It slaps us in the face.
Yeah.
And that's what we see when we see them. So we can't help but look at it like, wow, when
Yeah.
you reach your potential, your life is going to be so much more different than what it is now in a
Mhm.
good way.
Mhm.
For me, it's tied directly to loneliness.
Mm,
Mm.
So the narrative, and I know that this is
Mhm.
a mind narrative,
yeah.
Mhm.
um, but I don't want to get into that before I ask Kay the question that I want to
Okay.
ask, which is that you had that encounter with the lion, and it was very
Mhm.
different for you in a contrastive way.
Mhm.
What new emotions did you feel about yourself after having been put in, is what's coming out, after having been put in that position of witnessing God in that way? And I imagine you did some comforting
Mhm.
or
He had his
transmuting
head
or
in my
something.
lap, and I was petting his. Um.
So what did you learn about yourself and your capabilities having walked through that experience?
Immediately, I knew I was an eternal optimist. Um. And I knew that everyone grows weary, and that it's okay. Um. I was surprised, but only like when you talk about electricity, it can get measured to the nanosecond, the gigasecond, um the terasecond. Like it didn't even take a terasecond for me to realize that what I was a being, and not that I'm equal to God, but we all are. We're all creators in that sense. I think I felt like a common thread, and that in every moment we play a role, and we choose the role we're willing to play. And I knew that mine was to remind him of the optimistic side of things, and the how he had played things out for me, just to be that eternal optimist. Like you both have shared the potential of others. You know the potential of others, and I've always been that kid. I mean, I look like the kid to me when I see myself on this camera. Like that kid that said, "Why can't we all be loved? Why, why can't we all be loved?" That's inside of me. That's like, why can't we all be loved? And that's what I know. Like I know. That's that's what I know. I mean, and from that experience I've always known that, but I've always felt like the little kid, the lesser than, asking that question.
The naive, like, clearly I don't know as much as these people because they've all woken
Mhm.
up to this hatred that I don't have.
You know that I'm leaving my job and intuitively just saying, "All right, what's next?" And asking that question moment to moment, "What's next?" And putting things in place so that I can be available to answer that and hear the answer and move in that direction. And the moments in my life where I've been able to do that have been beautiful. So that moment felt like one of those where immediately it's just you're in the present moment, you're in the space between breaths, if I could put it that way, where you're just there receiving whatever is in your place. And I, in 1 second, felt inept, like, wait a second, this is God. And I wanted to be like, anyone, and there's nobody else there. I'm on a cliff. I'm sitting next to a lion. I mean, I can't even explain this to my family. Like, you people are the only people that I have shared. Well, no, anybody that wants to watch this, but um, I can't explain it. But it's just being in that moment and knowing that it's real, and that it's as real as reading a book or like I mean, like one of my favorite authors here, I'll show you, just to talk about art. Like Tommy Dave Powell, that he would think of these books and then write them down, and that's what I like to do, is think of these books and write them down. But those visions that I have also find their way into the kids' books I write, and then I write the story, and then I sit back and go, no one's gonna want to read this, and I humanly talk myself out of it. So it's always that balance. To get back to what you asked in that moment, what did I learn, is that whatever we believe is what we create. And if I choose to believe that I met with God, which I do, and that he shared with me that he was a little weary, and I had a weary kind of week, and I'll explain that really quick. But we all grow weary, you know? Like I put something on Instagram with a little kitten, it's a gray kitten, and it was like, hey, it's okay. Everybody feels kind of weird some days. Like that. Like we're just experiencing each other. And sometimes people don't bring their best. I had someone, to get to the story, pretend that they were me this week and swindle a woman out of $1,600. And I wanted to delete every social media account I had. I was so fearful. And I was like angry. I was scared. She called me up and said, "Hey, this person said they were you." And all the red flags were there. She even said she felt the red flags were there. They spelled words wrong. They took over her email account and managed to change it so that her emails only went, for me, they only went to a wrong email account that they had created. They took over my email address, so it looked like I was communicating with her, but I was spelling all kinds of words wrong. My phone number was even corrected to be wrong. So she was calling me all day and couldn't get me to answer and was frustrated. And finally made the payment. And then the last thing that happened was they told her that they wanted the second half of the payment, which was to complete the work that I would do. And it was going to be $3,200 total. So they were going to get $1,600 out of her a second time, and said, it's okay. Everything's under control. And that's when she knew, wait a second, there's nothing out of control here. Why are they assuring me that it's in control? So I was like, I lost faith in humanity this week, and I became fearful. And coupled with, someone told me that they believed in something like catastrophic. And I was like, wait a second. I had to go home and tell myself, realign, like you guys talked about, get out of the garbage can of whatever feeling it wasn't mine, and ask myself, what about this is mine and what about this is not? Oh, that's right. I don't believe in anything that I don't believe in. So if someone feeds me a narrative and says, I believe that this will happen, or I feel this way, I can realign and say, that's interesting. And then come back to, wait a second, I believe in this. I am not afraid of this.
Yeah.
And then it gets me back to taking action. So to get to the very pinpoint of what you're asking me, what I learned is I'm eternally optimistic, and I'm full of love, and I'm here to be love. And I am not about to give my power up to fear, or to be so weary in every moment that I can't find my way back to optimism and love, so that I can connect with others and reassure them that the potential of us is to be optimistic, to be full of love, to be creators.
That's really beautiful. There's so much of what you're saying that's resonating. And one of the things that I'm learning from improv that's really applicable for me here is, when you go on stage and you have an idea, throw the idea out your head. Let yourself not have an idea for a moment. And so I'm witnessing myself, like, past me would have been like, oh, this thing that you said at the beginning, let's address that, and letting that go and being more present, knowing that more of it will come.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm saying that to indicate why I'm not launching into something else. A lot of what you're saying is resonating, and I'm sitting with it and reacting with it in a newer way.
Yeah. Thank you. I love how you're learning about improv. I love that. It's such a gift of when you're able to share with us. July, you feel the same way?
Yeah.
The improv nuggets that you share
Yeah.
with us are like, because the beauty of being in the present moment is totally being in improv. Look at you both.
I know,
You're
right?
upgrading.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the coughing because people are gonna be
Yeah.
like, they're sick. Why are they saying they're
Yeah.
upgrading?
Right.
You both are feeling a little bit under the weather. But
Well,
under the weather is also
Mhm.
um, messages your body's sending you about upgrading to like an appreciation in every moment, right?
oh my
Mhm.
goodness, that was like, I think you ladies saw it, but maybe people watching haven't. Is that download that I got yesterday that when we humanistically are used to seeing someone who looks sick, you know, we can look in their eyes and we can see that they've checked out and they're
Yeah.
glassy. And as moms, isn't that one of the first things we did with our kids?
Mm-hmm.
And how many
Mm-hmm.
times did you have a kid? Oh my goodness, this epiphany is just getting deeper.
Yeah.
How many times was your little kid, you're like, they've got a fever, they've got a cough, but they're behaving fine.
Yep.
We're
Mm-hmm.
gonna go out to the park and be outside away from people because these physical symptoms, their spirits are right? Like the doctors are
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mhm.
but where are their spirits? Like their spirits are fine. Their mood,
Mhm.
you would never know if we didn't take their temperature.
Right.
Oh, I'm so
Mm-hmm.
grateful that that came to a deeper awareness.
Yeah.
Is
Mm-hmm.
that somewhere along the line we decide culturally, okay, being sick means we look this way. And the
Mm-hmm.
download that I got was that we literally disassociate with the body of like,
Mm-hmm.
I reject this body because this body is having me treat this way and experience this, and I don't want to experience these things. And so this body is turning against me, so I'm not going to be in it.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so the last couple of days, I've been mindful of that and very vibrant and grateful for the coughing and, ooh, look at this that I'm experiencing. And
Mhm.
I'm so grateful I had this forced pause where I stayed home yesterday and didn't go anywhere. And then I woke up this morning, and when I'm sick, when I have these symptoms, I love when I have these symptoms and it's not something I can enjoy when I don't have these symptoms, I love waking up and taking a shower. I'm normally a nighttime shower,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
but showering first thing in the morning and feeling the cleanse and feeling those satisfying coughs where I can feel the before and after. And even this voice like this is fun. It's fun for a time being. And so all of those aspects
Mm-hmm.
come through this experience. They don't come through the bliss day in and day out, to return to one thing you said.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been, and it's funny because, you know, we live with my parents, and I swear my dad, you know, he checks in with my eyes. He'll like just, you know, on random things, he'll like look at me, and I think he's like doing some evaluation that he's not sharing with me. And and I think that I feel like I caught surprise in his eyes when he looked at me after him hearing me with these symptoms, and my eyes are like, look how happy I am. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not what we so we're calling this an upgrade because, well, July and I got these symptoms pretty much, it turns out, like the same time, which we didn't realize for a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on the heels of some very powerful shifts that we as a group have been experiencing independently, not realizing it until we sync up. And sometimes the body just has to flush some old things out to get to the new.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, you know, it's not about contagion. It's not about um, you know, oh, the narrative of someone else in my family had it, so I'm going to have it for this number of days. I literally went to bed a couple nights ago, and it was like, all right, I'm going to imagine myself, my physical body while I'm sleeping is in this rainbow bubble, and I'm going to allow the ease of this upgrade as comfortably as possible. This rainbow bubble are going to have smaller rainbow bubbles going into all parts of my body, deep down into the deepest levels. And it's going to be like in this cocoon that's radiating outward. And it was like, while my physical body is experiencing that, my energetic body is going to be over here experiencing this other stuff, you know? And
You're getting into energy talk now,
it
AJ.
was just so fun
Yeah.
because the dreams that I had where it was like someone asking me, how long have you been sick? And it's like, I'm not going to, you know, like I'm about to have braces and people are asking, how long are you going to have braces? You know, how long did the doctor say? Well, you know, I'm not going to say because they've set up one expectation, but my teeth are already moving. You know, like I own my
Mhm.
body.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
dentist, the orthodontist doesn't.
Yeah, and what back to what you believe is what you yeah, whatever you
Yeah,
believe is what your reality is.
absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, the upgrades have been so, I
Yeah.
would say, coming like back to back, one after the other over
Mhm.
the past several days. And
Mhm.
then I had a dream this morning,
Mhm.
and I was visited by one of my deceased, you know, relatives.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it was just more confirmation,
Mhm.
about how we're shifting
Mhm.
because of the direction that we decided to go in, and that it's all working out now.
Mhm.
So,
And when you ladies are feeling, let's call it better, not worse or better, but I guess it is kind of on the spectrum. When you're feeling better, you'll recall the grateful that you feel right now. It's just continuing in a higher degree. Would you say that? That when you're feeling better, you may feel more grateful, even more grateful for feeling better.
Mm, more grateful for the presence of the health.
hmm And that you'll understand the downloads. Like it's, yeah, it's you're not curling up in a ball and not playing victim because when we don't feel well, it's easy to just, take that time. We call it low level feminine, but just to take that time to receive that rest period, lay in bed and drink that tea and just kind of, like you said, AJ, stay home. And then
Maybe
you can see July. You
she's
both,
still there, yeah.
both of you are um, using energy in your imagination to bring healing to you in 3D, and also you're still working in 5D. Like my energetic body will be doing this, and like I know I did that this week too. Ah, she'll come back.
We watched this
So,
beautiful movie yesterday. Oh my goodness. And I love my husband. I love that he checks in. He's like, I found the list of all the good Irish movies. And I'm like, so there's this
mm,
movie, this beautiful, beautiful production company. I don't know the name of them. They have a movie on Netflix called Song of the Sea.
mm,
And it's an animated movie about a Saoirse,
mm,
a human that when they put on their seal cape, they turn into a seal. So they have that magical and they have animation, and it's just really beautiful. And that's why we know them. And the one that we watched yesterday, I think, was called "The Secret of Kells" or "Secret of Kells."
ah,
And it was all about
mm,
the Book of Kells, which
mm,
I didn't know a lot about, but I
mm,
went to see it when we had a family trip when I was a kid. And when I was a kid, it was always like,
mm,
"Oh, this book is old." It's like dingy. That's how I thought about like artifacts and things like that. And this movie, I just like tearing up. It was so beautiful. And at one point, my girls didn't understand it, and so we paused it. And we're like, "Okay, well, this is a monastery, and they're worried about an invasion." And the leader of the monastery, who's tall and looming and portrayed as red, red colors, he wants everyone to build the wall, build the wall, build the wall, build the wall. It's very fear based. And then his
mm,
compatriot or his companion like comes from another monastery, and he's comparatively smaller, and he's white and long hair, and he even has a white cat. He says the wall is not going to stop it. When it comes, you flee and you hope for the best. And he's a illuminator, and so he's building this book. And it's just
sorry.
it's this
welcome back.
movie that we watched yesterday called The Secret of Kells.
Mm.
This animated movie that's just this beautiful artwork by this studio that does. It's an Irish studio, and so the Book of Kells is an Irish book.
hmm
Um, and so it has this tall abbot that's red and big and looming. He's even lurched over, and he just wants everyone to build a wall for protection. And it's fear. He's the representation of fear. And then the smaller brother, who's the illuminator, who's all in white, and he's got the white hair and the white cat. And it's like, let's my husband he called it like a spiritual task. Let's create this book that will give hope to the people and outlive us all. And then there's this little boy that's torn between the two of them. And of course, the fear-based abbot is his uncle, and he grew up in this monastery. He has no family, and so the fear runs this monastery until this abbot, this brother, comes and shows him another way to be. And then it's his choice to make. And of course, he escapes to the forest where there's this fairy she's also white, translucent, and he experiences magic, and he has all these downloads. And it's just this beautiful unfolding of how the magic of the Book of Kells is created, because from little I know that I've looked into it, this book, there's a lot of paganism that's been lost from Irish culture with and the Ireland origin story is basically a sequence of invasions. That's their origin story. Invaded by the giants, invaded by this group, invaded by this group. And so there's always a loss of culture. And when Christianity comes into Ireland, and there's a lot of, conversion, as religions do, the paganism kind of got integrated. And so they can't even tell some stories, saints. Did this really represent a pagan that they called a saint so that they could maintain it in the narrative? So the Book of Kells itself is biblical stories, but the magic in it comes from the artwork, and the artwork creates and births and records these paganistic creatures, these mythical existences, that because that's what the artists knew, and they interwove it. And so it has and so it is some threads where it's like, we've never seen these creatures before. There's no other written documentation. We don't know what they are, but they're in this magical illuminated book. And what's really cool is whenever the little boy dreamed, he basically was getting sacred geometry downloads, but they were all Celtic. They were all these little spirals and things like that. And not like geometry, like Tree of Life that we would imagine it to be, but clearly imagery. And I was just tearing up during this movie. It was so beautiful.
Oh, I want to see it. Give us the name again.
Yeah.
I think it's called The Secret of Kells.
Okay.
As in
Sounds
Kells?
Kells, yeah.
Okay.
But if you look up the other movie by these people is called Song of the Sea.
Okay.
I love movies.
I'll look that up. I'm going to write that down.
I
know I'll watch this again, but I want to.
I believe that that we had to watch it on Amazon. It wasn't on Netflix. We had to rent it.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's amazing. So I have a book that holds up a window. We have one corner of our home that we had to replace one window once. We had a window seat next to it. And amazingly, the window got cracked somehow. And the kids couldn't explain why. And so we replaced that window. And then now 90 degrees out from it, the window has refused to stay open. It doesn't have the resistance anymore, the tracks. And so I use that big fat book I've never read before, that's Irish Tales, to hold my window up at night so that it can give a breeze, because we don't have air conditioning. We live in the canyon, so the wind comes and blows. So I'm going to open that book and see. Finally, I have a reason. It's been calling to me the last few days. And so I'm going to go and check it out and see if there's anything in it to Irish Tales is what it's called. So
oh my goodness.
thick. It's like this thick and, beefy. It holds a 4 foot by 2 foot window up. So
I haven't told you ladies this, so I have like 15 tattoos. I've lost count. The first one that I got, this is visible now because I was willing for it to be visible. But when I was 18 and I was a lifeguard, I didn't want the sun exposure. So the first tattoo I got was under the swimsuit line. And it's a shamrock, which is such a typical stereotype. But it was like, I was 18. It was like, what about me is something that I want to eternalize? And shamrock came up. And so my dad is half Irish. And my mom, I think, has some Irish in her as well. But culturally, it wasn't a cultural thing. You know, we
Mhm.
visited Ireland when we were kids. When I was like, I was under 10 because my brother, I think I was 9, and it was like this small town with the one-way roads, and you know, we pulled over looking for directions, and they're like, you know, we pulled over at a pub asking to get how to get to this house, and they're like, "You're the cousins from America," because we had sent pictures ahead of time, and they're like, you know, they recognized my dad because he looked like a character from the, you know, from the TV show, and
Mhm.
and that was really the only roots that I had until starting leaning into this energy work
Mhm.
and being reminded that folklore stories are a way to document things that we can
Mhm.
lean into.
Mhm.
Mhm. Like giants. Yeah.
And the fairies of Ireland are the hill people. They're called the She. It's spelled
Mhm.
Sidhe, but it's pronounced She. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So that name is um thank you for saying that out
Mhm.
loud.
Mm.
you're welcome.
What significance does it have?
The she
Yeah.
to me or to the
Oh,
folklore?
I thought you meant
Oh
that.
yeah. When I had my vision this last week and the lions showed up, the the question was asked, "What is the lion's name?" And the name was she. And I couldn't say any more than she. And it surprises me every time when the name comes up, and I'm like, sometimes I can see it spelled, but I can't say it. And sometimes when I hear it, I'm like, it's gotta be more. But
Wow.
I love this life.
I
yeah,
know,
I do
right?
too. It's just so thank you for saying that. I want to hear more about she. Yeah,
Mhm.
I spent
if you want to
I
share.
invested in like $100 of books, and they run the gamut of like one of them is called the Immortals. Oh, Ireland's Immortals.
Mm.
You know, and because the thing is, there are different phases in Irish folklore. I found a
Mhm.
place online which actually feels more like Kay's vibe because I haven't taken the step. I found it like 5 months ago. It is so, as you ladies know, different cultures have different historical record keeping tendencies, and some of them are
Mhm.
written and some of them are oral. And in Irish culture, it was the oral tradition, and they were called bards, B-A-R-D.
Mhm.
And so I found this place in Ireland that teaches like Irish folklore through the bard tradition of
Mm.
like becoming a storyteller.
Mm.
And I
Fits
think
in with improv a little bit, it sounds like.
a little bit, except that it's rehearsed. But the idea of like recovering these, because you have to memorize the story, like it's like memorizing script.
Doesn't a story start with an improv though?
In which
Like
way?
even though you're rehearsing it, doesn't the magic of the improv initially start the whole story? For me, it does.
Mm.
And then rehearsing it doesn't take the magic away. It just solidifies it so that you can retell it as a story. But the improv part, it all starts as improv. That download, that moment where you're willing to let it flow through you.
Are you a musician?
Love music. I
But do you
sing.
play it? Or you sing?
No. Okay. So I would call myself a percussionist, but I've not ever been trained. We have a drum set in our basement that my kids play. Like my son will play the drums in our house is like and I'll dance. But I did play the French horn. I did try the flute, but the judge said no because the lips were wrong. Um, yeah, I know how to play home home on the range on the French horn. Does that count?
The reason that I ask, and you said you sing, I am not musically trained. I am logically trained. And in my PhD program, there was a professor that they studied musicians. And so I got to sit in on a presentation that has explained to my logical mind why music varies.
Mm,
And it was basically
what is
like
it?
I know why different people playing the same piece will produce something different. And it's this
Huh,
improv part that you're talking about. And so
okay.
somehow they measured, I don't remember the details, but what they basically did was they had musicians who were well-trained musicians learn new pieces, and then they measured the variability of how those people played the pieces.
Let's see this.
And basically what they found was, and to your point of the storytelling, because what I'm hearing you say is the decoupling between, like, here's the story with a set of words, and then the presentation of it is flourished and improv.
Mhm.
And it reminds me of this study that they did where the musicians who all played the same sequence of notes, if the sequence of notes was very technically difficult, that did not lend itself to the flourishing and the individualization and the improv. But
Mhm.
in pieces of the set that were not technically difficult, that were more rudimentary, it's like, yeah, I'm playing these notes, but I get to add all this flourishing on top. And so that,
Mhm.
and we know that with actors. We've seen, if you've seen different versions of Hamlet, and I'm like, I hate the Mel Gibson version of Hamlet because it's just so bad. And I love Kenneth Branagh, so I love the Kenneth Branagh version of Hamlet.
Mm.
They're saying the same words, but clearly when we witness actors, we can witness that they can do it in very different ways, even if we're not actors ourselves. And so
Mhm.
that what you said about the storytelling just reminds me of that, which is that, yeah, like the base story can be the same, but how it's told is where all that personality comes in.
This may be delayed, like storytelling, but Elaine said, "Good morning, ladies."
Yeah.
Who
Good
did?
morning, Elaine.
Oh, hi, Elaine.
Nice to have you. Yeah. So I love this. I love the synchronicity that we have every time we meet, ladies. I'm just like, it helps me confirm the questions I ask, right? The feelings I feel, the things that move me forward in directions that take me from improv to action that's a little bit more um, linear
Mhm.
than just directly in the moment. Because I imagine just being directly in the moment, you're kind of like, oh, that looks good. Oh, that looks good. It's a little bit like feeling like an ADHD butterfly, oh,
Mm.
cool. Ooh, yeah. And then, or the dog that says squirrel, Um, so it just kind of gives me that goal. And I heard Bruce Lipton. I don't know if you guys ever listened to Bruce Lipton. He's of the minds of like Joe Dispenza. And so I was listening to something last night before I did the meditation because I wanted to get into, okay, what do I believe? And getting into that thread of, okay, so I love stories. I love how they download. I love how there's a technical component to it. I love how it leads me down a path, but to stay on that path. I love it. So listening to him, what I heard was, so we have these amazingly creative bodies. We have these amazingly creative spirits, and we can create while we're here. And he asked himself the question, if I mean, why not just be a spirit? Why be a body and a mind and a heart, and why all of that? Why not just be a spirit? If everything is just love, then why be a body? And he heard, then you never would have experienced chocolate. And I'm thinking, chocolate gives you dopamine, makes you feel like you're in love. We all know that scientifically they say that. But bodies are, and my background is electricity, bodies are these resistors. Like, say you have this wire and it's full of copper and electricity flows on the copper. Say you have this computer chip and the electricity flows on all these little tendrils that go out from the computer chip, the little diode in the center. And say your body and your mind together are 5% of, okay, this is how it is. This is how you were taught. This is what's safe. This is fight or flight. This is the red abbot, or this is the white abbot. And then your spirit allows you, when you let it, to create that narrative of what you want. So you guys asked me to show you the art, so I'm just going to be like totally transparent. Like, the very beginning of a message that I get starts like this, sometimes, very rarely, with a pencil. So here's a pencil drawing, and I shared my art, ladies. Like you said, share your art, and I'm like, and then
Can you please hold
I
it up
sh-
again?
I shared it. So it's very simple,
Ah,
but see what that message says?
no.
Can
Can
you
you move
read
it a
it?
little? Other direction. Further.
Okay.
A map
A
of the
map.
future. Oh, and the body's all wiggly.
I
Yeah. So
know.
you're
I love that.
you're
Perfect.
you know I'm on an energy quest. I'm always on an energy quest, but for 21 days I'm solidly every morning exercising my right to say, what do I consider law for energy for me? Me standing here with this experience that I get to have, this selfish human experience. What is the energy that I get to be in? And so I drew this picture for day. Actually, I gave myself a half day because I wanted just a little bit more. And it was that we can imagine what we want, and that is the map of our future. Or we can sit in the past and understand that that's how things were and that's how they'll be and that's comfortable. Or, like I said, we can imagine and make it the map of our future.
Mm.
And so I am in that on day 10 and a half. So now here I am on, I gave it, isn't that funny? I gave it day 10 and a half before I was in day 10. So
And that's
yeah,
what
so
today is?
I did day 9
Okay.
and then I wrote down day 10 and a half, but I haven't yet written, well, I did write down day 10, but I gave it, I addressed day 10 and a half as the map of the future before I addressed actually sitting down for day 10. So this was like, that's so funny that I gave it before. Isn't that interesting? I think that's so cool. I love that. That's serendipitous to me. So we can imagine the map of our future. That's 95% of our existence is the subconscious. Like Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, Napoleon Hill. One of my favorite authors that hardly anyone knows, Maxwell Maltz. You guys ever heard of Maxwell Maltz? Psycho-Cybernetics.
I
Ever heard
think
of
I've
that
heard
book?
that from you before.
So it is this plastic surgeon guy.
Okay.
Plastic surgeon guy. I just put all of his schooling to a real general. This plastic surgeon guy. So he started doing plastic surgery on people, and he understood that after their surgery transformed their physical body, they couldn't get out of that 5% of their mind of the programming that they were still the same exact person. And so 95% of the work he felt was, wait a second, we have to change the belief. And so psycho-cybernetics is about changing the belief. And that's where I first learned how to ground. His exercise freaked me out. Like, it was to imagine yourself turning into cement. I can't imagine anything still to this moment that makes me feel more constrained than to become cement. Like, but that was how you grounded with him, was imagine yourself sinking into the ground like cement. I remember being so uncomfortable with that, being like, so I know I didn't like to be grounded. So I learned how to ground with psycho-cybernetics. Old book, Maxwell Maltz. So just thinking in terms of psychology, and I want to ask you ladies this question. Science is always a big prover, right? People will say, it's been proven by science.
Mm.
And 21 days of energy to me is like I'm proving to myself scientifically what I'm about. Like, I'm not just, can't we all be love? I'm actually an exercise of energy in the moment. And I'll ask you, July, and you can defer to AJ if you want. But
Okay.
when you have emotions and you clean yourself, can you talk us through, I feel this emotion, I'm cleaning myself, all the way to making a map of your future with feelings?
I'll
How
be
do
right
you,
back.
Okay.
how do
I'm
you
just
map your,
camera instead of checking out, so you don't have to find me again.
oh,
Okay.
good, okay.
Okay.
How do you make that map? If you want to share, if you feel up to sharing, how do you map your future with your feelings and your energy? And because basically when you're cleaning yourself of emotions,
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. You're not
Yeah.
staying in the present and falling into the past. You're becoming.
Yeah. That's I that's a good question, Kay. I don't use a map. And I'd like to try now that you just asked me that question, because instead of mapping out what my emotions would be, I guess or maybe this does answer your question. After cleansing, that realigns us. Once we're realigned, I just kind of try to stay within that alignment. And I know that within that alignment, my emotions are going to be joy, happiness, peace, all of the goodness. And so I guess that is my map, is endeavoring to stay within and not like get myself outside the lines, like coloring outside the lines. And I need to be more conscientious about staying within that alignment when a situation creeps up on me, right? Because then emotions tend to be happen like that, right? Really quickly.
Right.
So the question that you have just asked me is helping me to realize that that's something that I need to work on. That's gonna help me be better, because I never thought about it like that. And I can actually now plan for it, because you ladies know, I've said it on here before, I don't really make plans. I don't really make plans, but to plan ahead for the time where I know that my emotions are going to possibly control me, then I will mentally and subconsciously be already prepared to get back in the lines,
The X marks the spot on the map.
That's a good question. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
thank you.
consider that part of this upgrade.
Yeah. To me, that's what this energy exercise is doing for me, is laying out that map of, not that I'll always stay on the same map. You know how in video games, sometimes in the map, you get to earn another section of the map, the territory, the magical kingdom, the fairy kingdom. I'm always ready to go to a new map. So I'll be willing always, but just in a general sense, thank you for saying that, because it's, a lot of people will say being in the moment is more about being in alignment, but yet other people will say, like Bruce Lipton, you take that time to imagine, or Joe Dispenza, imagine it and become the map of your future, rather than accepting the programming of the past, the safety of the past. And I think it was Bob Proctor said, if you're thinking of your future and you have a goal, he used the word goal. I was like, oh, I've always set goals. If your goal doesn't scare you and excite you at the same time, then you're not shooting far enough. You're staying safe. And he called it the line of terror. He showed this quadrant. There was a line of terror. And he said most people will buy that car and then have buyer's remorse and return it. Buy that house, or say, no, I'm not going to buy it. Move to the city, or wait, I'm not going to do that. So you find yourself staying in that comfortable side of terror, or you cross it with your goal and know that, oh, that's exciting and that's frightening at the same time, I'm going to do it.
Oh my goodness. That is like the description of when I need to raise my hand and say something in a class or a group setting, because and you've seen me, you've seen how many times I speak up, and it's not always the terror. Usually I get into a comfortable place, and so more flows more easily. Thank you. I'm not
Mhm.
going to always call it ego. I just got a little ringing in my ears.
Mm,
It's telling me that it's not always ego. Sometimes I am just super aligned and
yeah.
it flows more easily. If there are instances where it's a new group or I've ego told myself I'm going to be quiet, I'm not going to do anything. And then it's like there's we would call it butterflies in our stomach, but it's literally the like I have to say this because of my body, and then I'll say it and my body will be shaking for like minutes afterward. And
Mm,
it
the feedback.
I used to think that it was the like excitement of like I get to say something, and now I recognize that it's the I have to say this. And because I've introduced resistance, it's going to
You
feel like
froze.
you froze.
We're hanging.
Is July going to come back and we're both frozen?
I thought my computer stopped again. Okay, so Kay is frozen.
I'm frozen to her. She's frozen to me.
Really?
We just needed to pause that conversation is all.
I love the still frame on her. This is always so funny. Let me make sure. Okay, yeah, we're still on there. What was she saying before it
Mm-mm.
froze?
You know that's not how that works.
I totally, yeah, I wasn't.
You walked out because you weren't meant to be a part of
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Oh,
she'll be right back. She'll be right back. Yeah, my nose is clearing so much. So
there's something
oh,
that she said that I want to return back to that I want to check in because it was
here she is.
so.
Okay. I don't want to. Okay.
We'll see what she
That
says.
was amazing. So AJ, you froze when you were talking about feedback, and it was like mic drop. And then my iPad went. And I was like, this is so cool. I mean, yeah. Okay.
So you mentioned I had this book and I don't have it anymore, I don't think, or it's in storage. I held on to it for a long time because it made me happy to have it.
Mhm.
So there's this bookstore in San Francisco called City Lights, and it has a historical poet background experience. I think Ferlinghetti used to go there or whatever. I don't know the whole story. The first time my husband and I were in San Francisco, early on in our dating, we stopped there because we love used bookstores and they have a used bookstore section. And I grabbed a book, which was totally magically, intuitively sent to me that wasn't even used. It was new, but you could tell that it was like independent press. I don't know the author, and I think it's called Bodies in the Making or Bodies Transformation. It's not even gonna be easy to find because it's such a like those words are very common. You know? Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I found it. It is called
No,
Bodies in
you
the
found
Making.
it.
Oh, wow.
Okay, Bodies in the Making: Transgressions and Transformations.
Okay. Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Looks
Okay.
like something in Las Vegas.
Well,
Bare naked
that's
ladies.
kind of the point, right? So do you see that it's editors because it's a collection of essays, and I'm not a collections of essays reader, and I read this book cover to cover.
Really?
Because it's so beautiful. So I've had loved ones assume that because I don't wear makeup that I'm going to judge their choices to make makeup or their choices for body augmentations in more kind of culturally standards of beauty ways. And I'm like, this book is literally like they're all I've got tattoos everywhere. Who am I to judge someone else's transformations? And to the thing that Kay talked about with plastic surgery and how people, I think that you said, or it reminded me from this book, that people will get plastic surgery and then be unhappy with the results. And one of these essays makes the comparison between people getting plastic surgery and transgender individuals going through their realignment surgery. And it's this
Mm.
beautiful comparison because it basically says that um, the transgender individuals who are going through alignment surgery have a vision. Look at all those little things above Kay's head. Do you see them?
See it.
Look
Mm.
at
Wow.
the camera, Kay. It's so beautiful. And they're like falling down too.
Hello.
That those individuals have a vision of who they are. They
Mm.
have this very strong vision of who they are. And then they look down and recognize this doesn't match who I am. And so patient after patient after patient who has a reassignment surgery looks and goes, I finally look like me.
Mm.
And then a lot of people who are getting plastic surgery, again, culturally, right? They're trying to achieve a goal or they're trying to become something that's more of a standard of someone else's definition of beauty. Not always, but in this comparison example.
Yes.
And those people, when they look at their results, they go, I look nothing like me.
Mhm.
Right? And then they're happy or they're not happy. But their goal is to become something else and return to not them. And I believe that that's actually why a lot of people who get plastic surgery are not happy. If you think about the facelift trend where you get some injections and then it's a spiral, and how many actors and professionals have been profiled of, they got one thing done and then they felt like they needed another and another and another. And I believe it's because in that instance, those people are seeking an external remedy for an internal pain that hasn't been healed.
Mhm.
Whereas, and it's not all trans individuals have that experience. I have known a couple of trans individuals who have had some, and I had been mindful of this this framework that this person had established, and I saw this individual, and from what I had sensed from where they were internally, hopefully I wasn't projecting. I probably was because I was unconscious at that time. That individual did not have internal alignment, and so I sensed that their surgery was not going to yield the results they were hoping, because they were still in that position where they were hoping for the external remedy for the internal pain. But it's funny because I did a post a while back and I like called out the LGBTQ community as like a community where I feel safe, where I was like willing to, the sparkle in the eye, like I'm willing to make contact with that community and, but not others. And I thought, like, why did I name them? Why, like, should I take this down? Like, that's really weird for me to name them. And it's because I'm comfortable in that community, because that is a particular community that has done a lot of introspection. So like, and it's full of people who are taking a stand and saying, this is who I am. And there's still underlying of pains. There's still people, and it's not a homogenous group of people presenting in one way. But largely, it's a group that is open to introspection, open to you do you, open to you tell us who you are, and we will be on board with it in ways that I haven't seen in other like externally identified groups of people. Like meaning like, professionals, or that's what I mean. Like where culture says this is a group. When culture says this is a group, I'm like, I get this group because this group is all you do you.
Mhm. I couldn't
You do
agree
you.
more. Yeah.
I
That
agree
it
too.
takes a special person to be able to come out the way that they do, and to be able to be who you are authentically without giving a care about what the world thinks. And so I have respect for them because I had to go through that with my religion and just being who I am and making the choice and saying, I'm not identified anymore as that Christian.
Yeah, the identifying, and the introspection. That's really, it's really thought provoking,
Mhm.
because I've always felt that way. Like, just as a group, just as an individual, if you feel a certain way and you can't share it with the world because you're concerned, you don't feel safe. Just so much introspection and internal struggle of finally being able to share that. Just feels like a freedom and a truth, that a lot of people probably can't understand.
So
The pure introspection.
Does it surprise you then that and like, again, before we wake up, we're still who we are as light beings. We just don't know that that's who we are. That when I look back on my series of, phases of my life, I often receive friends into my life in the period of time where they are coming out to themselves and coming out to the world. And then our friendship, it's like that transition phase. I'm there for that transition phase. I'm there for them to wake up, to own who they are, to be open with me about who they are, maybe be open with the world, maybe not. And then we part.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, as I've woken up, it's like this honor to be that place of safety for people, or, inspiration, because I'm
I
walking
love
a path
that.
that looks so different.
To be able to share that and understand it and know that, like people talk about, they have seasons, relationships, people, they're seasons of being with those people in our life and seasons of not having them in our life, and being open to being that, like, like you guys shared with me, that I might be helpful to animals who want to cross, and that vision of the net coming and scooping the little kitty up, and it becomes this wild lion in the hillside. Every time I see what people call roadkill, I know I'm a gateway, and I just do my energy on it. And when I say I do my energy on it, it's not like I go out and mark territory and pee on it or anything. I'm saying, like, like July talked about, or like you just said, being open
Yeah.
Would you
to
be
being
willing?
in that place and offering that service of, okay, I understand. It's an understanding, right? An introspection of, I'm here to assist.
Mhm.
I'm good with that.
Would you be willing to share on screen the origin story of that awareness for you? Because I think it's really beautiful, but I also
When I
don't want
put my
to.
energy on it,
No,
the cat,
when you were driving.
yeah, I'll share.
Because it's such a it could be a common experience for people, and then if you're open to sharing what your process was like after, and
Yeah, I struggle.
how you got to that awareness, it's just such a beautiful story.
Yeah, and it was, so the beautiful part for me was being able to share it with you and you offering insights. It brought me peace. So having people align with you is, I just can't explain it more. Like, that's to me what Genius Seduction is about, and the playground is about, is being able to align with people on a playground where maybe you feel like, I don't really know which way to go, but yet you can also align with people and know, but I know I feel this way. So being able to share that with you ladies, I'm so grateful. Every time I go by Kitty Corner, I'm like, just peace. So
Mhm.
there's this road that we live on, and it's very windy. And we went on a date night, my husband and I, and his parents had just passed. And so much has happened since then, but we went to dinner. We drove separate vehicles and met. I had my very last coaching meeting. I had hired a professional coach to help me through life. And I had this one last meeting with her, and it took a little bit of time. So I sat in a library parking lot, used the Wi-Fi. My husband was parked across the street, and he's waiting for me, which he's so patient. So I'm late to dinner. I get out of my truck. We walk 2 blocks to this restaurant, and I lost my truck key. Get to the restaurant. I don't realize I've lost my truck key. Everything's good. The only thing I remember is taking a vest off. I remember feeling the truck key on my neck as a necklace because I had it as a lanyard. Go in, have dinner, come back. Everything's great. We have a great dinner. It's emotional. We talk about as parents. We're learning how to bring them into 3D, to be present with us in every moment, because we miss them so much physically. We just want to grab them and hug them. And I mean, these are people we wanted to come and live with us, and they said no. And we said, come live your happily ever after with us. And they said no. And they ended up passing away a week from one another. So we're grieving this. It's like not even 6 weeks after this. We walk back. I'm going to get in my truck. He's going to get in his truck, and I have no key. We walk back the block, back forth, can't find it. So here I am, like, 45 minutes later than I thought we should be, get into his truck. loud diesel truck. Drive down this windy road. We're talking about his parents. And all of us, and it's only 30 miles an hour on this road. And like I said, it's a loud truck. We come around this, and it's full of corners. The sign on the beginning of our road is one of those, 5 miles. So we go around the corner, and it's coming into the left corner, which I'm just realizing now, significant. And this cat goes across the road, and my husband swerves. Oh my God, no. And the feeling under the tire. Beautiful cat. Seen this cat in the field hunting. Beautiful cat. Never seen a cat that looks like this, except we have a Manx cat, kind of similar. This was like a medium hair cat. Beautiful cat. Like calico, but every part of the cat was a brindle. Beautiful cat. And of course, it's in the middle of the road, and it's dying. And there was no swerving to avoid the cat. The truck comes around the corner. We're going less than 30 miles an hour. It comes in front of us, gets hit by the back left wheel. And we pick it up. I won't go into the details of that part, but I learned a lot. Like in moments of that, we learn a lot about each other, right? So I pick the cat up. At first, I need to find something to pick it up because I realize I'm afraid to touch the cat. I feel like it's going to be upset because it's in pain. And then it just expires right in front of me, and I just keep talking to it. It's okay. You can go now. It's all right. It's okay. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But what I didn't realize was that's a choice. Sometimes that's a choice. And so I share with you ladies what happens. I think I left a voice message, told you what happened, told you how my husband and I interacted, how I went into this person's garage right next to the road, and it had been raining heavily. The land was soft. And the first thing I heard was get a shovel, bury the cat, find the owner. So I got all kinds of messages, and we end up encountering this lady that lives there. She's got this visitor there, and she's giving this dog to this visitor. This lady runs a dog daycare, and we talk to her about the cat, and she shares with us, oh, that neighbor has 100 cats, probably more, and that's one of the neighbor's cats. That cat isn't owned by anybody. That cat is part of the 100 cats. And she had an opinion on it. And so we're trying to find the owner. We knock on the door of the person where I borrowed the shovel, where I buried the cat in their yard, and I wanted to let them know, hey, we hit a cat. We want to bury the cat. We want to share that we hit the cat. We would like to talk to the owner of the cat. This lady shares there is an owner of a cat, but they're not here. There's 100 cats. They're not going to miss it. And I'm thinking, wow, 100 cats. Wow. I just so wanted to do the human thing of where you knock on the door and you share, hey, I hate your cat. And you have that hard conversation. And my husband's resistant the whole way, but finally we get to talk to the woman and we hear. And I'm thinking, wow, kitty cat. So we drive away. And I share with another neighbor that lives on this road. Hey, do you know anybody that may have owned that cat? That look like this? And she's like, my kids are house sitting, cat sitting. They're going to go feed those cats. And those cats are so loved. And yes, they have a lot of cats, but yes, that cat was very loved. So this cat was loved. This cat was part of a 100 cat club. And when I shared it with you, you shared back that the messages that you received were that I was there to help that cat cross. And this was after I shared with you the healing I did, because I felt so strongly that, oh my gosh, it isn't complete. There's something about this that isn't complete. And I went back energetically in a meditation to the spot where I had buried the cat. And I saw this infinity symbol that was shaped like a rainbow. And I thought, wow. And that's what sometimes we would call a download, right? Like, okay, so now you're gifted with this. You're welcome to do an infinity symbol. Like when I did my energy thing is what I called it. When I glossed over it and you asked me to expand. It was to create an infinity symbol over a place where something had expired or had been buried, so that the infinity of the rainbow would help them cross from physical matter to energetic life. And when I did that and I saw the infinity symbol bounced up, and all of a sudden I was back into the truck again, and I had a fishing net that was super long with a pole, and it reached out of the truck and it picked the cat up before it got hit from the spot where I saw the infinity symbol, and I gently set it on the other side of the road, and it ran up into the hillside and looked back at me, and it was a wild cat, like a puma or a lion. And I was like, oh, that just happened. And I shared that with you, and you both shared with me that I was there to help that cat cross from the physical world to the energetic world. And not that it makes it right or wrong or anything gets erased in the whole physical of we hit a cat. It was sad. But there's a chance that cat, and I know that cat heard that truck, and that cat decided to cross right when the truck left. And there's no winning against a big diesel truck when you're a little 3-pound cat. But my role in it was important, and so I take that seriously. Anytime I see a dead animal on the side of the road, or I hear about an animal, or I hear about somebody dying, I reach out and do my energy thing, which is I put an infinity symbol that is iridescent and like a rainbow, and I open that possibility of that being to cross over if they needed help to cross over in that moment. That's the story.
It needed help, and it's grateful for your help.
And you were the one that was like strong, like it chose you because you were capable of getting through that, and you had the tools to meditate on it, and it wasn't going to permanently devastate you I mean, it devastated you. You still had these experiences, and you were able to see the beauty of it in ways that maybe other drivers that night weren't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a place in that area that I've seen cats before. I'd encountered a cat there before, about 10 years prior, and it was pretty graphic, and my kids were with me, and I stopped the car and looked at the cat, and it was white and black. And we drove away from the cat and went to a neighbor's house and said, "Can you please help us put this cat out of its misery?" And the wife said, "Honey, get your gun." And he went and got his gun, and we stayed at the house, and he went up to the road, and you could hear boom, boom. And then he, because that cat wasn't immediately expiring, it was still struggling to live. And he put the cat out of its misery. But yeah, that wasn't the first time that I'd encountered a cat on that corner.
I didn't know that part.
Kitty corner. My kids remember it. And I wasn't equipped at that point.
So this was even, oh my goodness. So you were redoing the same place. Wow.
It was 90 degrees out from it. So it's a 90-degree corner that has a 90-degree corner right before it. So you come around a corner, you come around another corner. So it's a definitive S curve, and it was on the top of the S curve, and this cat was in the middle of the S curve this time.
Look at that symmetry for you.
The universe was giving you confirmation that's what.
And you know how much I love animals. Love animals. Love animals.
And that's why you're chosen.
I will gladly help any animal crossover. Now, I know. I could totally do my energy thing, as I call it. Which now you know definitively is an infinity symbol. That's most beautiful rainbow ever. That's lay on top and make it available. Yeah.
My favorite part of that story you left out was what the cat really looked like in all its glory.
So
you
beautiful.
Just blazed over it this time.
I did, yeah. Yeah, the cat was when the cat crossed over on the left side of the hillside, it was beautiful. It was this wild cat that it wasn't going to hunt for little mice anymore. It was going to be able to get big prey, and it was going to be able to defend itself, and it was just going to go up into the hills and hunt. And it just, the way it looked at me and then turned and left, I was just like, is that the same cat? So many questions came to me in that moment. But yeah, it was a beautiful, wild. It wasn't angry at me. That was the face that I saw. It wasn't angry. It was, wow, so many tears today. Thanks, ladies. Very cleansing. But yes, it was a beautiful moment, but also just surreal. Like, that just happened. The net just came out. I'm like, wait a second, I'm in the truck again. Wait a second, that's a net. Wait, and just the receiving of that happened. So yeah, believing. Believing is seeing is believing, but for me sometimes believing is seeing.
Thank you for sharing that, Kay.
Yeah. Thank you for
You're
asking her
welcome.
to share that, AJ.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and
Story.
thank you
think
for
it
letting
was-
me share that. I felt a lot of guilt
Yeah.
initially.
I feel like that was, I mean, maybe it's just fresh in my mind because we just talked about it, but like in the phases of our development as a trio, that was a very like special time. Your openness to sharing that and us feeling safe to offer like our interpretations, knowing that you were going to be empowered enough to only take from what we were saying what you needed and what resonated for you. Like I had no concerns of, oh, she's gonna assume everything I'm saying is true, you know.
Mhm.
And like our trust, I feel like to me that the trust that the three of us have is constantly deepening. And
Mhm.
it's most often through instances of vulnerability like that where we're like, hey, I got to be real with you, and we're like, all we are is real with each other.
I know. I
um
know, right?
and it's just that like further willingness to lean in when we're
Mhm.
vulnerable for the support. And
Mhm.
I know I have phases where I'm low vibe and I'll have this thought in my mind saying like, don't inject that into the group chat. That's for you to deal with. That's your business. Only bring your best to these ladies. And you know, when I
Yeah.
do allow it to be like, hey, help me through this.
Yeah.
You know, I remember a live call most recently. I do not want to say the topic, but there was a live call that we had where I shared with you ladies something, and I was mindful enough to say, hey, I'm going to say this to you, needing your help to transmute it.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
so I'm not just whiplashing you. And I said
Mhm.
something out loud that I had said to very few other people. And just the love and the support that I felt in that moment of like, you know, I'm grateful for all of that.
Yeah. Me too.
Me
I
too.
love it. I love you ladies so much. I'm so
I love you
grateful
too.
to have you for, everything, but the support is just,
Mhm.
I'm grateful, and I just had one of my moments yesterday, and it's like, I look at it as part of the the clearing.
Mhm. The
Oh,
upgrades.
hmm
Look at us all leaking.
Yeah.
well, and July saying that her moment was yesterday really,
Yeah.
I'm going to get luxury for a minute, but I got to
Yeah.
Mhm. Do you want to share about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh.
oh, were you talking to AJ?
No, I was talking to you.
You share
Okay.
yours.
July. Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to hear both. I need to take a quick break, so I'm going to
Okay.
mute and disappear. And
Okay.
You said you want to hear it. Should we wait till you get back?
I think
I
she meant
do,
for the
but
audience, or no?
She wants to hear
yeah,
both.
and I listen to this afterwards too. So
Oh,
Yeah.
if it's
okay.
meant to be, yeah, we'll
Okay.
see
Okay.
how it pans out.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's common. I think it's common for, I'm sorry now. I think it's common for people in our line of work to be looked at as if the source of our work is, not holy.
I was wondering
Yeah.
what direction you were going. I got it.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, that happened with me yesterday where somebody it wasn't the fact that they made that accusation where they were like, "Hey, what does that mean?" And then they answered their own question without allowing me to answer the question. They messaged me. They were like, "What does that mean?" And then they answered their question and said, "Demonic." And we're used to that. I'm used to that. I know that people feel that way. But where I was still cleansing or clearing is where I replied the way I shouldn't have replied. With sarcasm. And the not so nice sarcasm, you know. And I know that sarcasm is all fun and games and stuff until you start feeling like you're altering your karma.
Mm. That's a good threshold description if I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
Until you start to feel like you're altering your karma. That
Yeah.
needs to be on a shirt. It's all fun and games until you start to feel like you're altering. Your one-liners are just.
I thought it was like it really made me feel good. Your response, I was laughing so hard internally.
The part where I just said it sounds like you were triggered.
The more specifically, the part where you're like, "Look at you," and how it all like worked itself out, and then you sent the little emoji with the heart space.
Come here.
I was laughing at myself, like.
Because I said it sounds like you were triggered working its way out. That's what it was.
Yeah, and you're like, "Look at you, see how it all works," and so it brought me back down off of that mentality of wanting to lash out, and right. So
you got trespassed against.
I did.
No, not me. No, those shivers are
talking about me.
Oh, okay, good.
July though, yeah. What?
Yeah.
Like, don't assign what that shiver means. I got all defensive.
I was so grateful
I
though
just
that
trespassed against you again. I double trespassed.
That person apologized, not once but twice, and that was beautiful. And it taught me a lot. There's no need to react like that. Retract the nails.
But also completely like it makes sense where you were coming from, especially with someone asking you a question and then answering for you. Is that not a version of "woman don't speak, I'll speak for you"?
And it was a male.
I said something. I got to hear your story while I was gone. I said something to a man when he asked me a question yesterday and didn't allow me to finish. And I was pissed. So I get it. When you ask a lady a question, you give them a chance to give you an answer. And I don't use those letters or words.
Thank you, because it goes against us when it's subtitled.
Yeah.
Which I like posted the comments in one of them, and then I got I had told a story where I used like a phrase, and then when I was uploading the video and I posted the transcript in the comments before I was uploading it as a caption, and then it was like, "This goes against our community standards."
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You gotta behave. I'm sorry for.
Does lip syncing it go?
Yeah, no, that's okay because it doesn't get on the.
There's no audio. Yeah, I love that you shared that. I love how in our chat we'll share screenshots and stories that express what's going on, and we can share it, like the cat story, like the demonic answer. I'm like, wait a second, that's the last thing. Like people will assign meanings of things independent of your assigned meaning for something, and we can't control that. Yeah.
What I was gonna say is that for me, and I'm curious what you ladies witness both as the recipient of my engagement and then as the witnesses of your own engagement, is that this whole text thread, which started for me like a year ago with July and I doing audio notes
Mhm.
to each other on a one-on-one chat where the audio notes could only be a minute long. And so
Mhm.
I would get like delight when I would open the phone and see like a thread of 8 of them.
Yeah.
And then sometimes get I gotta listen to 8 of them. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I'm sure you know. And then Kay and I had some of them, but just our story didn't unfold in that way. Our story for the 2 of us unfolded in a different way. And so now when it's the 3 of us, and this is part of the witnessing of the counter manifesting, is the mindfulness of when to open the phone, when to engage, and when to give a response. And so here's what I mean. If I'm out the door about to be with my kids, that is the worst time, although
Yeah.
I've witnessed it as a habit, to pick up my phone and go, have I gotten any notes from these ladies? Because if I have, they're going to be of substance and I'm not going to be able to be present or
Right.
attentive to them in that split second that I've decided to open my phone. It's not possible.
Mhm.
And in the times where I have tried to squeeze engagement into those transition phases where my attention is not completely there, is when I have unintentionally put energy out there into the group that is not from the focused heart.
Mhm.
And so I've witnessed 1 or 2 of you like
Mhm.
kind of notice that it's a half-assed response and that it's not the thoughtful attention that your vulnerable share has deserved.
Mm.
I'm so bad at that.
But, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
someone has just shared an 8-minute video that I
Yeah.
didn't wanna listen to the 8 minutes, and then I listened to the 8 minutes, and then I text, "Yeah, me too," on the way out, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm
And
so bad. Forgive me for
Mhm.
having those short responses.
but it's fine because we all get it. We've all been on
Yeah.
both and all parts of that.
Mhm.
The growth for me has been in choosing,
Mhm.
how do I wanna show up for these ladies?
Yes.
Mhm.
If I'm not completely present, if I'm rushed,
Yeah.
like and knowing and honoring that you ladies don't have a timeline for when I reply, and that's part of
Mhm.
the trust that we have in each other, is none of us is like, I mean, yeah, I'm flipping open the phone looking for notifications, but that's my habit. It's
Yeah.
not, they haven't responded to me right away, they hate me.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
we all give each other the freedom of, like, be present when you're present. I'd rather have your presence than your half-assed
Yeah.
response.
Mhm.
Authentic presence. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's why we grow so much, is that that chat might be quiet for a day
Yes.
because we all got stuff to do,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
it's not the right time. Or, like, what was it? Even, like, Friday night, Kay
Mhm.
had left a 4-minute message in the morning, and it didn't feel right to listen to that message, but I engaged in the chat all day, and then it was, like, the end of the day that I listened to that message, and it was the exact pick me up that I needed. It was the exact bringing me back to center that I needed, that if I
Mhm.
had rushed to listen to at the beginning of the day, wouldn't have delivered the same punch.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sometimes it may take me even a couple days.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not that it's no
Mhm.
disrespect to the chat at all. I'm sure you ladies know that, but
Mhm.
um, and I'm sure also you've figured out after quite some time now that I'm always engaged in something
Mhm.
pretty pretty major. So when I do come to our chat and I do want to be wholehearted, I'm
Mhm.
absorbing it. If I respond at all, it's because I've absorbed it. And
Mhm.
sometimes even still, I haven't really had the chance to give the response that I really want, but I make sure that I insert the energy in the chat
Yeah.
and from across the country to you guys, ladies. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I need to get better at that.
You're perfect the way you are, July.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Banish that language
Yes.
from your mouth.
Thank you.
That I need that come.
That was
Yeah.
my mom speaking for
You definitely are perfect the way you are. Both of you ladies.
her. Likewise, thank you.
Thank you, Kay, yeah.
I'm so grateful to have. What's What's your cat's name?
Daffodil.
Daffodil. I'm so grateful to have Daffodil. Okay, when you
Daffodil had a brother named Jack. So when
uh
Daffodil starts to look around, sometimes she'll focus on
where's
somewhere and I'll be like, oh, is Jack here with us? And then we'll
wow.
just kind of, yeah, Jack was, we couldn't tell if Jack was her boyfriend or her brother. I mean, with cats, it's all kind of
Yeah,
similar,
Sometimes
but
the same.
yeah,
I love
it's
your
Daffodil. She's 16 or 17.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a cool kitty. She's all orange.
That's right. She doesn't have the
pet.
white that they often have on the underside.
She has
Mhm.
right here on her little chin and her neck,
I
and
hear
that's
the
it.
purring because she's in the microphone.
Oh, she's so sweet. She's a sweet kitty. Yeah. Hello. Yes.
Your pets have the
She also,
sweetest spirits,
yeah, so
the
sweet.
sweetest
She's a sweet
souls.
one. She
Mhm.
knocked over the iPad earlier, and I was like, Daffodil. She looked at me and went over on the bed, and we had a talk, and I said, not this. And she said, okay.
Aw,
I did not have cats that did that.
no,
That like snuggle.
yeah,
It made me laugh when July said that your animals are all sweet because I know the spirits of my animals and both of them are like, I'm cerebral.
yeah.
Like curiosity is my primary thing. Love is priority number 3 or 4. Like my dog, I have family members that want my dog, not in my immediate family, but my extended
Yeah.
family. I have some family members that are like, Aja, come here. Aja, come here.
Mhm.
And they're like, she doesn't like me. And I'm like, you haven't
Mhm.
invested in this
Yeah.
animal. This animal has no reason to attend to you because you said her name. Like, hold, hold some
Okay.
treats in your hand, teach her that
Yeah.
you're worth paying attention to, and she'll come around.
So funny. I think animals somewhat mirror our personalities. Dare I say?
That's
Oh,
why I'm laughing. That's why I'm laughing so hard when you say hers
yeah.
are the sweetest.
Yeah.
Mine are like interest first, love second.
Oh, yeah, because I
That's
have
so
one.
cute.
They're here to teach us lessons, right? Every animal
Yeah.
you have is like a lesson for you. And I have one that everything else is more interesting than me. And I just keep leaning into that, like,
Let me love you. And they're like, "Grr."
and they'll be like, what's that noise? Who's over there? And then, so to the point where when you put a piece or food down in front of them and you have them wait, they'll be like staring at the food, just ready for the food. And I've turned to training them to, when I say their name, they'll look up at me now. And at first I was counting one, and then they'd look back down. And then I'd say one, and they'd look back down. And then I'd say 1, 2. So now we've got to like 4 seconds where they'll look me in the eye when I say their name. So we're learning that there's a cue to pay attention to me, and I need that from this animal. But yeah, it's been a real lesson. Like, what about me?
Oh
What's
my
wrong with
goodness.
me?
The what about
Yeah,
me? Did you heard July's statement of like it's all fun and games until you like I don't remember what it is, recognize your
sarcasm. Something about sarcasm.
but
She,
the point until you recognize that you're altering your karma. Like I feel like that's the same statement with pets is like it's all fun and games until you realize you're altering your karma. Like if that cat does not want to be pet, I know what me 10 years ago would do. And now it's like and dogs especially and smart dogs especially are really good at like they're going to tell if you're an ego pet or if it's like a connection pet. Like
Mhm.
meaning like stroke, not like animal. But like
Mhm.
um the dog, if she comes over with the ball in her mouth and she drops it, she's like, "Play with me." And sometimes that's her cue because she's working with God. Sometimes it's like,
Mhm.
interrupt your thought pattern, and this is the only cue I have to like draw your attention. But sometimes she wants the ball played with. And when the animal wants the connection, it's the connection that they seek. It's not the ball that they seek. So if I'm half-assed throwing the ball, she just looks at me and she's like,
Yeah, like
"No, that's not what I'm
not
asking for."
it.
mm,
If you're not all in, and she's so funny because she has like times of the day where she wants to play with certain toys. And so at the end of the day, she just wants the squeaky ball and she's like staring up because we don't keep it down because it's a noise induced hearing loss. She's like staring up at it and I'm like, you want to play? And I try and bring the rope and she just looks at me and she like won't even come into my space because she's like, that is the wrong toy.
They communicate with us for sure.
Yeah.
In this instance, I want that dog to work.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if they can focus on me in the moments where it matters, then maybe they can work in a hospital or work in a school. But at this point, it's everything else is more interesting than me, but she loves to work. When you get her inside of a building, she can't take her eyes off of me. And I can't tell if it's because she's overwhelmed with the energy that's in the building and she just wants to be reassured that everything's fine, and she'll make eye contact with me like nonstop.
What if
do
you
you
shield
need?
her before you walk into the building?
That's a good idea. Yeah.
And then you tell
do
her, we could have
yeah.
this more if you connect with me more.
Right.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
outside, but I
that,
mean,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's, and outside of the buildings, she's different. Well, going into the building, it's like she's aware. But yeah, it's a working situation where, and I battle that, like having my will over a dog's will. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you're so highly trained, it would be great if you could work, but is that really what her will is? It is when you get inside of a building. She likes those smooth floors, you know.
Dana.
It's fun. Yeah, Dana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My body needs its nourishment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you.
It's
I didn't want to
always
cut off.
fun.
We could talk about Dana next week because I want to hear more.
Yeah.
I want to be present for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go
Thank
to
you.
your Instagram to see the cat posts.
I love that cat.
Yeah, it's a kitten named Kimi,
Okay.
adventure cat that rides on my daughter's shoulder and goes camping with her. So
Oh, I love that.
yeah, her birthday
Well,
present.
okay.
Well,
Thank
nice
you.
to see you,
Always.
ladies. Thank you.
You
Love you.
too.
You sound better, July.
Yeah, I feel better because of the call. So
Good.
thank you for that. Thank you for your
Yay.
energies.
You're welcome.
Well, here, I show this. Here's a healing.
Yes.
you
Pull it
go.
out so we can see a little bit more, please.
Mhm.
Yes. I love that sphere.
Yeah.
Oh, and it goes
Yeah.
bigger than the.
It makes me feel instantly better.
Yeah. So this is a healing. This is how I wake up every morning. Step one.
Nice.
Yeah. And it grounds me and protects me and makes me feel whole. So it is something I strive to do as often as I can, and I would like to do it every morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a great share.
So
And on that note, enjoy your day.
All right, ladies. Take
Thank
care.
you, ladies. Love
Love
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.